I met Hope when she was a little girl attending our children's ministries. A short time later, she tragically lost her mom to cancer when she was just 9 years old. Hope and her dad, through all of life's struggles, attended CTK faithfully for years. And then last December, I got a call from one of their closest friends at church. Hope was very worried about her dad. Something wasn't right. After an initial assessment at St. Joe's, her dad was transferred down to UW for emergency surgery. Hope was home alone, scared, and overwhelmed. With no family in the area, their friends were doing the best they could to meet Hope's needs, but they were coming to the end of their resources. So I asked Carrie, our blessing coordinator, if we could help with grocery money for simple foods a young person could prepare on her own. But soon it was clear that she really needed a safe place to spend the holidays while her dad was in the hospital recovering from surgery. The CTK Blessing Fund enabled us to fly Hope across the country to be with her extended family. Then, once her dad came home from the hospital, to fly Hope back to Bellingham to be with him. I'm so grateful for Carrie, our blessing coordinator, who plays such a critical role in these situations, coordinating with community resources, problem solving with families, and using blessing funds where it makes the most sense.
For the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of walking alongside people like Hope, whose lives are interrupted by tragedy, loss, or other unforeseen circumstances. I get to see firsthand how your generosity meets very real needs. I want you to know it's a reminder that God is at work in their lives and that they are not alone. As a church family, we can't meet every need, but what's unique about the blessing is that it allows us to find and fill the gaps. Things other programs and services can't cover. That flexibility allows us to follow the Spirit's lead as His plans for them unfold. At so many points in Hope's story, it seemed like an unsolvable problem, but God continued to make a way, orchestrating His best for Hope and her family, even in the midst of heartbreaking loss. So on behalf of each of the 100 plus families I've worked with this year, thank you for giving so faithfully and so generously.
Sadly, Hope's dad was given only a few months to live. We walked alongside the family with prayers, support, and encouragement wherever we could. Carrie helped Hope navigate difficult public systems to access support and services wherever possible. And Hope's dad did all he could to prepare her for life without him, but there just wasn't time. One evening, the pastor on-call emergency phone rang. Things were bad and Hope needed someone to come. Her friends from church were there, but they wanted a pastor to join them. I knew this situation had become too much for such a young person to handle. I knew her friends were doing all they could, but this situation was complicated with many layers. The very real needs were adding up faster than we could find solutions. We were coordinating with hospice and hospital social workers and some of the programs at the Opportunity Council. Everyone wanted to help, but there were just some needs that no program was designed to meet. Hope's dad was eventually moved to the Wacom Hospice House, but Hope had no place to go. She didn't want to go back to her family while her dad was still here. She needed to be near him, and he needed to know that she was going to be okay. So her aunt flew out to be with her brother at the end of his life and to take care of Hope. But no one knew how long that would be. Days, maybe weeks. And that's where this church family stepped up and stepped in like only community can. People took Hope into their homes until her aunt could arrive, picked her up at the airport, loaned them a car to get around Bellingham, gave them a spare bed, helped pack up an apartment, and so much more. In the midst of it all, a huge challenge came up. The lease on Hope and her dad's apartment was ending, but leaving Bellingham and Hope's father all alone made no sense. They couldn't afford a hotel room indefinitely, so once again, when things seemed impossible, God showed up in a big way. At just the right time, a CTKer who was familiar with the situation had just bought a house and offered to let Hope and her aunt stay in the apartment for the remaining weeks on the lease. When the day finally came to say goodbye to her dad, Hope was faced with another set of decisions and burial expenses that she needed help navigating. The family had already been stretched to the max, so CTK Blessing covered those expenses and the ticket to fly Hope back to the East Coast with her aunt, where she is now surrounded by her family. For 20 years, the Blessing has allowed our church to care for families like Hope's. Without the Blessing, we would be able to provide spiritual and emotional support, but it would leave friends and family scrambling to pass the hat to be able to meet her tangible, practical needs. And not everyone has those resources. But as a whole family at CTK, it's wonderful to see how God uses the Blessing and our network of relationships to do the impossible. I am so grateful to be a part of a church that not only shows the care of Jesus in devastating moments, but demonstrates His provision.